Thank you so much for joining us, by the way. You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seemed, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue. We'll try to fix that and get back to you after a quick break. We're filing a lawsuit against the Trump administration over deployments of National Guard troops. Joining us now to comment, White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller. My question was whether the administration still plans to abide by that judge's order restricting any National Guard troops from being sent to Oregon.
Well, the administration will abide by the ruling insofar as it affects the covered parties, but there are also many other options the president has to deploy federal resources and assets out of the U.S. military to Portland. I was making the point that under federal law, Section Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has the authority anytime he believes federal resources are insufficient to federalize the National Guard to carry out a mission necessary for public safety. So it's important to understand that in Portland, ICE officers have been subjected to over 100 nights of terrorist assault, doxing, murder threats, violent attack, and every other means imaginable to try to overturn the results of the last election through violence. The most important point I want to make today is that the number 1 and 2 items in the GOP platform in 2024 were to turn back the border invasion and carry out the largest deportation program in American history. Liberation Day, there's been an orchestrated campaign of terrorism and violence against ICE officers. Of course, we saw the recent sniper attack against ICE officers. They're publishing their families' photos online. They're threatening them with murder. They're threatening them with death. And they're physically attacking them in the street each and every day. And yet, shamefully, the mayor and governor in Portland and Oregon have refused to render aid, leaving ICE officers to street fight every single night against these terrorists.
You make the claim of terrorist assaults and violence attack over 100 nights, and yet the judge overseeing this case says that that's untethered from reality. And local officials on the ground say that Trump's assertion of what's happening in Portland, that it's war-ravaged and burning to the ground, is far from true. I looked at the police data, and police have made something like 70 total arrests since June. And there are no reports of buildings being burned to the ground. The White House cited a guillotine being rolled out as a public display of rebellion, but there isn't actually a threat that these demonstrators are going to overthrow the government. Are you concerned that that response weakens your legal argument?
No, they are actually, as we speak, trying to overthrow the core law enforcement function of the federal government. Of course, this is, I think, where we're talking past each other. When ICE officers have to street battle against Antifa, hand-to-hand combat every night to come and go from their building, when they try to exit in a vehicle, when they're swarmed and surrounded and they try to tip the vehicle over, when people bring weapons to an ICE facility to try to engage in direct violent assault against ICE officers, what is the purpose? It is to prevent Immigration and Customs Enforcement from carrying out the mission the American people elected them to do.
You make the case that these are terrorists, but in what we've seen thus far, the actual incidents of people inciting violence and not responding to law enforcement attempting to disperse them are not an open rebellion. I mean, again, you make this characterization as though they're terrorists, and I do wonder if it is potentially a problem in the future for Republicans. If a Democratic president someday calls the National Guard to a red state over what they see as open rebellion, but is what amounts to a demonstration that gets rowdy. I mean, is that not
they're posting pictures of their kids because it's a demonstration, and they have a sniper on top of a building firing a high-caliber rifle at an ICE facility because it's a demonstration, and they're engaged in vehicle ramming.
But the National Guard isn't being sent to Texas. The National Guard isn't being sent to Dallas, where that sniper was.
Because the Dallas Police Department and the governor of Texas, why you walked right into that one, have responded to every call for assistance and help. They gave a stand-down order in Chicago, and they gave a stand-down order in Portland. Do you realize that there's 11,000 federal law enforcement officers in Oregon? That's larger than the size of the FBI. Local and state police are resourced to deal with this kind of riotous assembly, but they have refused. They've been given a stand-down order.
So they've arrested some 70 people since June. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They've been arresting folks on the ground. They refute what you're saying outright.
We literally have the 911 audio of the stand-down order in Chicago, and we have documented inside of DHS every single unresponded to 911 call over the recent weeks and months.
Do you have evidence that this campaign is coordinated? Are you planning charges on anyone who is actually coordinating said campaign?
Yes. So since the Joint Terrorism Task Force has gotten involved, we found that there are common funding, that there is common financing, that there are meeting points, that
you're describing as actual terrorism.
Yes.
And you're going to charge someone with terrorism.
Well, so I would like to.
I bet you would like to, but that doesn't mean you're going to, are you?
No. What I'm saying to you is the Congress has statutes on seditious conspiracy, on insurrection, on impeding federal law enforcement. The domestic terrorism statute in Congress obviously needs to be strengthened for domestic terrorism in Congress. We have foreign terrorism charges. We have an entire patchwork of federal laws. To the extent that there are charges that apply, we will charge them in every single case. You have impeding law enforcement, you have seditious conspiracy, you have conspiracy to deprive rights, you have assault against law enforcement officers. But all of this meets the hallmark, textbook definitions of domestic terrorism. I just want you, just for a moment, to step back and think about what we're talking about here. President Trump ran and won a campaign on turning back the border invasion.
You said that several times. We have a limited
time,
so let me ask you. Let me ask you about the no-go zone. No-go zone for ICE. How is that not insurrection? We're set to hear from J.B. Pritzker in just moments. He says that you're attempting to inflame tensions and create a war zone. He also says that you are profiling, that you're targeting black and brown people, even those who turn out to be here legally. What's your response? Well, first of all, the black people in Chicago are thrilled that we're getting the illegal aliens out of their communities who are stealing their housing, jobs, and resources. You've seen the video of the town halls during the Biden administration where black citizens who are native to Chicago were begging to have the illegals taken out of their country. What they've done is they've created a system of law in Chicago, in Illinois, where illegal aliens have far more rights than American citizens. If an American citizen, for example, commits a crime of sexual predation against a child, they'll cooperate with the FBI. If an illegal alien commits a crime of sexual predation against a child, that illegal alien will be shielded in an ICE no-go zone. I ask you the question, what is the right term to describe a local official declaring a no-go zone for ICE? Would you tolerate it for FBI, ATF, DEA? No, you would not. But there's an effort to delegitimize the core function of the federal government of enforcing our immigration laws and our sovereignty. It is domestic terrorism, it is insurrection, and no amount of insane, hyperventilating lies from Pritzker or Johnson or any other Democratic official will change our minds on that. ICE officers should not have to live in fear and violence to do their jobs, period. So on the substance of the question, is it the case that, as Pritzker frames it, you are profiling brown people, that this immigration crackdown is designed to go after people of color?
It's such a oh, what a dumb question. The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks, they're taking jobs away from whites, they're taking jobs away from Latinos, they're taking their health benefits away, they're taking their school slots away, and of course in many cases they're committing heinous crimes. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens, and that's what they're doing. You know it, and I know it.
So that's not exactly a no, Stephen. Can you just unequivocally state that the immigration policy?
Okay,
well, I appreciate
no,
that,
and it's a dumb question.
So no, this policy is not designed.
When I said it was a dumb question, it meant no.
Well, I just want to be clear and precise. I appreciate you trying to qualify my questions, but nevertheless, I think it's a fair one that a lot of people have.
My full answer is no. That is a lie, and it's a dumb question. But you said something else speaking to the premise of one of your questions. You said, well, aren't we provoking? The Illinois governor says we're provoking actions that are unlawful. Why would the mere presence, just think about this for a second, if I put federal law enforcement and National Guard into a nice sleepy southern town, is anyone going to riot? Is anyone going to try to shoot them in the face?
If someone goes into a building full of people in the middle of the night covering their faces without identification, without identifying themselves, there might be concern among the community, especially if American citizens are being, especially if American citizens are caught up in that, which
we netted over 30 foreign terrorists who are members of Train
American citizens also got apprehended in
they
that.
They torture women and children. Those American citizens are now safe from Train Iroquois. There was a case recently in Washington State.
Isn't that enough reason for some people to demonstrate and say that they disagree with that policy?
They took a power drill.
Isn't it enough for some people?
Hey, Stephen,
understood. Stephen, we have to leave the conversation there because we're short on time. But nevertheless, we do appreciate you making the time for us and coming on CNN and sharing your point of view.
Always.
Everyone listening to video too. Sorry it's so long, but the second interview was 10 minutes long. They replaced the first one with, and I just wanted you to show that it's uncut, unedited. That's the way it was put out on CNN. But thank you for your time. Like, share, follow, and please, hey, remember you are loved and there's nothing you can do about it. Goodbye.